And my focus in the classroom was math concepts. And so my action research focus, turned into, if I went to my math professor 2 times per unit that we'd be studying, usually at the beginning and at the end, well, the math techniques that I'm currently being taught in class reflect well and improve my students' academic understanding in their math performance. As you know, we're all mostly in the same math class together, and I'm not very strong in math, and so I wanted to not only improve my abilities, but also the students as well. And so this is my action plan. I would meet with Dr. Olson at the beginning of each unit to discuss possible approaches and to assist the students in the current struggles that they're having with our unit of study. Introduce the instructional techniques given to me by Dr. Olson and the ones that I already know, and then I would meet with her at the end of the unit and discuss with her any progress or problems that I have with the current method, and if I need to change anything, if I need to approach the student in a different way. Fractions, the methods I used were our fraction circles. Most of you are familiar with those. They're just little plastic pieces. And written and verbal reasoning. Now these two components were items on the worksheet that the students definitely had trouble with. I want to ask you guys, are these pieces all equal? No. The students thought otherwise. See, these students, they did not look at the sides. Immediately they saw the middle pieces and they're like, oh, those are equal. This must be, the parts of this circle are equal. And this one the students really had problems with. They don't see 4 equal triangles. They see one big triangle and one small one. And that's what I first thought too when I looked at it, and then I had to look at it a different way. So a lot of this project was helping the students enhance their visual and to look at things in a different light. And this was their progress. The red is their average scores before I started these new techniques. And the blue is after. Now student E, he is an exceptional student. I mean, all of my students are doing very well. They did very well, and I just helped them to improve. They just had a problem with seeing things visually. They don't use a lot of visual aids in the classroom, like manipulatives. When I brought my little orange pieces, my plasmons and ones, they wanted to keep them, and they wanted to work them all the time because they'd never seen those before. And one thing that they would see is on their worksheets, they would have manipulatives that were drawn out. So when they'd have to do a takeaway method, they can't visually see that. So I had to bring my manipulatives in and actually show them. Rounding numbers, I did 4 different kinds of units, and I just chose this one to talk about today because this is the one that the students felt the most comfortable with, and that I also had the most fun doing because there was major scaffolding involved. And the methods that I used were prompting and, of course, scaffolding. And how I did that, the students' main struggle was rounding 2-digit numbers compared to 3-digit numbers. So, for example, if I had 67 and I was to round that number to the nearest tenth, which digit would I look at? 7. The 7, the last number. That's easy for students to see. But if I asked them to do round 253 to the nearest 100, which digit are they supposed to look at? That is hard for them. It's the overabundance of numbers. They're so used to looking at the last number that they have problems with this. So I had to approach it a different way. We talked about the golden rule. If any numbers between the last number, whatever number you're rounding is between 0 and 4, you round down. And the number, if it's 5 and up, you round up. So like I said, 94, last number. But for 265, in terms of place value, what is the nearest 10? So we look at the 6. Nearest 10 would be 260. Then it asks the students, okay, is 260 closer to 200 or 300? And so we started out rounding to the nearest 10, and then we moved on to rounding to the nearest 100. So I was building on something that they already knew. Because this was a major problem for them. They always wanted to look at this last number and be like, oh, 5, you round up. Yes, but that's not the number that you're supposed to look at. You're supposed to look at the middle one. So that was something that they really had problems with. And like I said, other areas I researched, this is one, adding and subtracting using the tens method. Students had difficulty distinguishing which method to use for adding and subtracting. Yes, you're adding 10, but in one method, you add 10 up to the number, and another method, you add 10 to a different number. And they really struggle with that. So this is, I think this is like a light blue. This was their beginning progress, and the dark blue was their ending progress. And they did really well to begin with, but it was just, okay, which method are you supposed to use? They knew the methods, they just couldn't distinguish whether they were supposed to use them. Another one is telling time. Students did very good with this. The one struggle that they had problems with, and even to today, was determining the hour. They can do the minute hand, no problem. Some of them still have to write, 5, 10, 15, on next to the clock and stuff. But what I used was one of those plastic stand-up clocks, and we talked about determining the hour. And at first, I used in terms of, okay, has the big hand passed the 12 yet? Well, they still didn't understand that. So then we had to go, okay, is the big hand in between which two numbers? And then they'd say, okay, it's between the 7 and the 8. Okay, has it passed, if it goes up to the 12, like that. So I had to approach it a different way. So this was a learning experience. Have I met my focus? I believe I have. The use of manipulatives, greatly, because these students had no visuals at all. I want to show you guys another thing that I found in the worksheet. Now, worksheets are black and white, usually. One thing I want you guys never to do is put on a worksheet what half of that triangle is shaded green on a black and white worksheet. That is not going to work. The students are like, well, it's black, it's not green. No. We tell them which side is shaded in black or just which side is shaded. Don't make this green, because they won't understand, because they need that visual. These are second graders. And also my relationships with the students. Once I started going and they kind of got used to the routine of me being there, they wanted to go right away. They knew what I had prepared for them. And there was a student that I did have problems with who never wanted to do anything. He actually had a breakdown one day, and I just kind of left him alone. I didn't want him to do any work. I just wanted him to at least sit with me. And then later on, I asked him, okay, are you ready to work? And then he said, yes, Ms. Miller, I think so. And so just building onto that trust with your students. And other forms of visual representation. With the manipulatives that were printed on the worksheets, for takeaway method, I just had them cross them out. That way they can visually see, because they didn't do that before. They teach you another problem. So what I learned throughout this whole thing was just visual representation was the key to these kids' success.